the Volsungs and the Niblungs, of Sigi, the son of Odin. Here begins the tale, and tells of a man who is named Sigi, and called of men the son of Odin. Another man withal is told of in the tale, hight Skadi, a great man and mighty of his hands, yet was Sigi the mightier and the higher of kin, according to the speech of men at that time. Now Skadi had a thrall, with whom the story must needs deal somewhat, Brethi by name, who was called after that work which he had to do. In prowess and might of hand he was equal to men who were held more worthy, yea, and better than some thereof. Now it is to be told that on a time Sigi fared to the hunting of the deer, and the thrall with him, and they hunted deer day long till the evening. And when they gathered together their prey in the evening, lo, greater and more by far was that of Brethi, had slain than Sigi's prey, and this thing he much disliked. And he said that great wonder it was that a very thrall should outdo him in the hunting of deer. So he fell on him, and slew him, and buried the body of him thereafter in a snowdrift. Then he went home at the evening tide, and says that Brethi had ridden away from him into the wild wood. Soon he was out of my sight, he says, and not more I wot of him. Skadi misdoubted the tale of Sigi, and seemed that this was a guile of him, and that he would have slain Brethi. So he sent men to seek for him, and to such an end came their seeking, that they found him in a certain snowdrift. Then said Skadi that men should call that snowdrift Brethi's drift from henceforth, and thereafter have folk followed, so that in such wise they call every drift that is right great. Thus it is well seen that Sigi had slain the thrall, and murdered him. So he is given forth to be a wolf in holy places, and may no more abide in the land with his father. Therewith Odin bare him fellowship from the land, so long away that right long it was, and made no stay, till he brought him to certain warships. So Sigi falls to lying out a warring, with the strength that his father gave him, or ever they parted, and happy was he in his warring, and ever prevailed, till he brought it about that he won by his wars land and lordship at the last. And thereupon he took to him a noble wife, and became a great and mighty king, and ruled over the land of the Huns, and was the greatest of warriors. He had a son by his wife, who was called Rerir, who grew up in his father's house, and soon became great of growth, and shapely. Of the birth of Volsung, the son of Rerir, who was the son of Sigi. Now Sigi grew old, and had many to envy him, so that at last those turned against him whom he trusted most, yea, even the brothers of his wife. For these fell on him at his unwariest, when there were few with him to withstand them, and brought so many against him that they prevailed against him, and there fell Sigi, and all his folk with him. But Rerir his son was not in this trouble, and he brought together so mighty a strength of his friends and the great men of the land, that he got to himself both the lands and kingdom of Sigi his father. And so now, when he deems that the feet under him stand firm in his rule, then he calls to mind that which he had against his mother's brothers, who had slain his father. So the king gathers together a mighty army, and therewith falls on his kinsmen, deeming that if he made their kinship of small account, yet none the less they had first wrought evil against him. So he wrought his will herein, in that he departed not from strife, before he had slain all his father's banesmen, though dreadful the deed seemed in every wise. So now he gets land, lordship, and fee, and has become a mightier man than his father before him. Much wealth won in war got Rerir to himself, and wedded a wife withal, such as he deemed meet for him. And long they lived together, but had no child, to take the heritage after them, and ill content they both were with that, and prayed the gods with heart and soul, that they might get them a child. And so it is said that Odin hears their prayer, and Freya no less hearkens wherewith they prayed unto her. So she, never lacking for all good counsel, called to her her casket-bearing maid, the daughter of Hrimnir the giant, and sets an apple in her hand, and bids her bring it to the king. She took the apple, and did on her the gear of a crow, and went flying, till she came whereas the king sat on a mound. And there she let the apple fall into the lap of the king. But he took the apple, and deemed he knew whereto it would avail. So he goes home from the mound to his own folk, and came to the queen, and some deal of that apple she ate. So, as the tale tells, the queen soon knew that she was big with child, but a long time war or ever she might give birth to the child. So it befell that the king must needs go to the wars, after the custom of kings, that he may keep his own land in peace. And in this journey it came to pass that Rerir fell sick, and got his death, being minded to go home to Odin, a thing much desired of many folk in those days. Now, no otherwise it goes with the queen's sickness than heretofore, nor may she be the lighter of her child, and 6 winters wore away with the sickness still heavy on her, so that at the last she feels that she may not live long. Wherefore now she bade cut the child from out of her, and it was done even as she bade. A man-child it was, and great of growth from his birth, as might well be. And they say that the youngling kissed his mother on ever she died. But to him is given a name, and he is called Volsung, and he was king over Hunland, in the room of his father. From his early years he was big and strong, and full of daring, in all manly deeds and trials, and he became the greatest of warriors, and of good hap in all the battles of his warfaring. Now when he was fully come to man's estate, Hrimnir the giant sends to him Liad, his daughter, she of whom the tale told that she brought the apple to Rerir, Volsung's father. So Volsung weds her withal, and long they abode together, and good hap and great love. They had 10 sons and 1 daughter, and their eldest son was hight Sigmund, and their daughter Signy, and these 2 were twins, and in all wise the foremost and the fairest of the children of Volsung the king, and mighty as all his seed was, even as has been long told from ancient days and in tales of long ago, with the greatest fame of all men, how that the Volsungs have been great men and high-minded and far above the most of men, both in cunning and in prowess, and all things high and mighty. So says the story that King Volsung let build a noble hall in such a wise that a big oak tree stood therein, and that the limbs of the tree blossomed fair out over the roof of the hall, while below stood the trunk within it, and the said did men call Branstock.